Well, I'll call the meeting to order and we'll stand for a moment of silent reflection. Before we begin, does anybody have any declaration of pecuniary interest?
I do. On the staff reports, 7-CATR-2, the release of the encroachment agreement. Mr. Bennett's being represented by my employer's learners.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, Mike?
Yeah, on the closed session, on open road allowance.
Okay.
I'll give you a form to fill out after.
Okay.
Okay. Move on to minutes of previous meetings. The April 9th budget minutes and the April 15th regular council minutes.
So moved.
Okay. Seconder?
Wasn't here.
Okay. Any errors or omissions?
Not that I could see.
I did have something. Okay, in the one section under the council grant program, says Treasurer Kathy Case reviewed the remainder of the budget with council, answering questions from council along the way. Is that intended to be written that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's just say she finished the rest of the budget report.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Maybe a comma after the first council.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yep.
I thought council was answering questions.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Okay. That's carried. Okay, correspondence. We have our regular council meetings Tuesday, May 21st, FCM, Federal Municipalities Conference, May 30th to June 2nd, regular council meeting Monday, June 3rd, and regular council meeting Monday, June 17th. Do we need to go through all the recommended reading?
Through the chair, I would say yes, just in case council has any questions or
Okay.
comments along the way.
Okay, our recommended reading. The first one, Blue Water Recycling Association, the annual report. Number 2 is Blue Water Recycling Association, the April meeting highlights. Number 3, MPAC's 2008 annual report and a letter, with the letter and the report. Number 4, North Middlesex notice of public meeting. Number 5, letter from the Solicitor General concerning the OSPCA. Number 6, the Ontario Human Rights Commission, harmful impact of Indigenous themed sports logos. Number 7, a letter from Cheryl Gallant MP concerning Bill C-68. And number 8, 2 letters of concern concerning the LaSalle Agro Biofertilizer Facility. Next we go on to the action required. Our first item is the Township of Warwick Conkey Drain, Branch A, a notice of the Court of Revision. And that we are required to have appoint one council member to sit on that Court of Revision for the Conkey Drain Branch A. Shall we nominate somebody?
Yeah. The mayor,
If I may, you may appoint a council member or anyone to represent the municipality.
Oh, okay.
I suggest Mayor Curtis.
Okay.
He's close to the area and he knows drainage, so I'll move that Curtis represent Adelaide.
Would like to leave that and bring it back when he's here, just to confirm that
Okay.
he's available that evening. I don't.
All right, that's fine.
May 27th at 4 o'clock? Yes.
Okay. So we can defer that motion until later in the meeting. We'll try and remember it before new business is done. Okay, the next item is the City of Brantford resolution concerning single-use plastic straws.
I thought it should be supported. I don't know what good it'll do, but
Any other comment? Are you moving to
I'll
support?
move to support.
Okay.
Carol seconded. I mean, it's not a bad thing.
No.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The Town of Minto resolution concerning OMPF funding.
I said supported as well.
Okay.
I'll move we support.
Okay. Any other comments?
Not sure there's much we can do about it, but
No.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Or is that a comment?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's carried. Optimist Club of Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe, a request to waive the fee for the rental fees for the park on the weekend of the ball tournament on June 17th.
So moved.
Carried by Councillor Bode, or seconded by Councillor Brody. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. The Optimist Club of Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe, I guess that is, it's not really a request. I think it's just to advise us of their intentions to obtain a special occasion permit to sell beer and liquor.
Asking for a request for that.
Yeah, if I could through the chair, they haven't requested it, but I did talk to the board member. It is supposed to be a request because it is a public event. So in the event when a special occasion permit is requested at a public event, there's supposed to be a motion that attaches it with support from the township, making it a municipal significance of a community festival.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So does the Optimist, is that their liability or is it the township's?
It will be their liability, but will be added as an additional insurer because
Okay.
it's our property.
So do they get like the PALS type of thing, the party alcohol liability?
Yes,
Yeah,
Well, and
they'll have to.
they're covered under Optimus International Plus too.
Yeah.
okay, good to know.
They will be required to provide proof of insurance.
Yeah.
That's right.
Regardless of where it comes from, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Number CC14, request for a commuter parking lot.
With plug-in station.
Oh,
So is this not, county of Essex property, it doesn't belong to us?
Right,
So-
so, in the motions that are in front of you, there's a recommendation that this be deferred to Chris Train at the County of Middlesex, he's the county engineer, because the two intersecting roads, or that intersection is owned by the county. and it's county property.
So you need a motion for that? Yeah, I'll also move that we forward that request to Chris Train at the municipal, or the Middlesex County.
Seconded by Councilor McKinnon. All in favor? Okay. And number 7, CC 15, play it forward.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So how do we make this known that this is available to people? Is it one of the best kept secrets, or is there a way, do we put it on our website, or do we ask the Optimists to spread the word, or how do we do that?
Through
Or
the
the
chair,
schools?
probably the best way to be put it on our website and on our Facebook. The thing is we don't have any sports teams here in the municipality.
It has to be within the municipality.
Right.
Okay, so it's,
Right, so it's great to have, but because we don't have any sports teams that,
If
So
I
leadership
read it
information.
correctly, it does allow us to support a child from our municipality, so as long as it's from our municipality and participating in a sporting, either basketball, soccer, or hockey. So it's limited to just those 3 programs.
so would we send something to the guidance counselors or something at the high school, and then something over at Adelaide Metcalfe school? Or whatever, Adelaide McDonald it's called, I guess?
we could.
Because I know,
If
if there's a
council
program there and then people, they're not gonna access it if they don't know it's available, and it probably has limited application, but, yeah.
I can certainly forward it on to the school,
Yeah.
both schools.
I would say, like the public schools too, because it doesn't say any, right?
No.
So that's a motion to
Direct staff
direct staff
to forward, the play it forward information onto, the schools that are within the township boundaries.
Well, I would say do it at Care Up North, because half of that end goes there, right?
Okay,
And I guess don't forget the Christian school and
Yep.
And the Catholic school,
Yeah,
that they're paying
Catholic
tuition, so they're likely, needs.
Yeah, we have residents going to 2 of the Strathroy Catholic schools, and I don't know
well,
if
that's the Care Up North, both high schools.
Mhm. And that's moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Brody. All in favor? And that's carried. And we still have to file, resolve that council receive and file correspondence items CC1 to CC8, CC10, CC11, and CC15.
we won't be doing 10, 11, or 15 because council supported those, so it'll just be CC1 to
Okay,
CC8.
CC1 to CC8.
Yep, so moved.
And seconded, Councillor Clark, all in favor? Okay. Oh, we're ready for the staff reports already. Summer, council meeting schedule.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Hendricks. Okay, so this, report, past practices have dictated that, council has set a summer schedule in the past, with 1 meeting in August. Currently, as our procedural bylaw states, our scheduled meetings for May and June are Tuesday, May 21st. And we do have 1 planning application, for the Committee of Adjustment, to consider at that date, Monday, June 3rd and Monday, June 17th. And we do have currently at least 2 planning applications for that date for the Committee of Adjustment to consider. There's also public meetings to be scheduled for the special policy areas as approved by council at the April 15th, 2019 council meeting, with the potential passing of an interim control bylaw for those areas. July and August council meeting schedule as per procedural bylaw. Regular meetings of council shall be held on the first and third Monday of each month, starting at 7. Council may by resolution alter the date, time, or location of a regular meeting when deemed necessary. The first council meeting in July would be Tuesday, July 2nd. The office would be closed Canada Day holiday, July 1st. And the third Monday would be Monday, July 15th. The first council meeting in August will be Tuesday, August 6th. The office will be closed for Civic Day holiday, August 5th. The third Monday would be Monday, August 19th. Council is being asked to provide direction for the July meeting dates so that appropriate notice can be provided. And I just listed some options for council. So you can either hold your 2 council meetings as per the procedural bylaw, which would be Tuesday, July 2nd and Monday, July 15th, or hold 2 regular meetings on Monday, July 8th and Monday, July 22nd. Due to there being 5 Mondays for the month of July, this will spread out the meetings more going into August. Council is also being asked for direction for August meeting dates. So that appropriate notice can be provided. So you can hold 2 regular meetings as per the procedure bylaw, which would be Tuesday, August 6th and Monday, August 19th, or we can have 1 council meeting, which would also have planning applications if there are any, which would be Monday, August 12th. Council should keep in mind that the month of September also has 5 months, and if council chooses option B for July and August, this would evenly spread out the meetings for July and August, and then we go back to normal procedure in September. Council should also keep in mind that the AMO conference is scheduled for August 18th to the 21st in Ottawa. If council is intending on attending this conference, the regular council meeting as per the township's procedural bylaw would be Monday, August 19th, and that may need to be changed depending on quorum. My recommendation is option B, and there are financial implications in regards to this report if council wishes to hold 2 meetings in August with council remuneration. My recommendation is that council approve the recommendations as presented by myself as the regular council meeting date scheduled for Monday, July 8th, Monday, July 22nd, and Monday, August 12th to accommodate conferences and evenly distribute the meetings, and staff be directed to post notice of the meetings of council on the township's website and Facebook page. Also, I don't have it in this report, but the public meeting for next council meeting in May, Tuesday the 21st, we're wondering if we shouldn't be changing the start time on that to 6 p.m. to accommodate for the public meeting for the special policy areas in order to give time for everyone that may be coming forth that would like to speak to council regarding the special policy areas. So I also have a recommendation that the Tuesday, May 21st council meeting be amended with the start time of 6 p.m.
Do we know how many people have expressed an interest in the AMO conference? I know Curtis is going.
Mayor Curtis for sure.
I'm not, so we don't have an issue for that one. 'Cause I'm not available on August the 12th.
Oh, sorry, I gotta actually pay attention. Yes, Councillor McKinnon.
I feel we should stick to our 2 meetings because some of our matters are behind schedule where we should be, and we're having someone new come in for the maternity leave, so it's not going to be a staff person here that may be able to be as helpful as Jessica is in the past. And we've got the special policy study and job performance evaluations, the determination of the hub and pay equity. We've got a lot of things to catch up on. So I will be supporting the 2 meetings, sticking with the 2 meetings.
Did you have a thought on the dates?
I think stay with the 8th and the 22nd, and being there's just Curtis that may be attending AMO, stick with the 6th and the 19th.
And we haven't got any staff interested in going to AMO this year?
No.
Okay, yes.
I'm hopefully not around on the 19th of August. So I don't know if you want to stick to 2, if we can, I know I'll be home the 26th.
I will be around the 26th.
Doesn't matter, whatever.
Yeah, and I'll be away, but not that far. I'll be as far as Warwick, so that's probably just as close. Okay,
Oh, wait a minute, you said the 20th of, oh, you're away the 19th, that's the Monday, right? Okay.
Yeah.
which would make the 26th the next Monday.
I don't know for sure yet, but if I go, that's the week of the week. So,
What about the 6th and the 20th in August? Or you're away that whole week? The week of the 19th, you'd be
I
away the
go
whole
away
week?
that whole
Okay,
week,
yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Well, I'm totally open all summer, so.
So we know Curtis will be away the
19th.
19th, he would be at that one.
18th,
Oh, 15th to the 18th?
isn't it? Isn't that what you
No,
said?
the
It's the
conference
18th
is
to the
18th to
21st.
the 21st.
Yeah. So he's away, Mike's away. That would leave 3 of us.
Mhm.
The week before, the 12th. I'm away the 12th.
Yeah.
And everybody else is okay the 12th?
Mhm.
Can you do a week, but like, could you do the 6th and the 12th? Or that's pretty tight.
do we
Getting
need,
stuff ready.
do we need to do one, yeah?
The only thing with
It
the
doesn't give them
12th
much
is
time.
if we have planning applications, we always keep it to the 3rd Monday of the month, cause we need time to get out the notices,
Which is the 19th, okay.
yeah.
In September, there is,
5.
yeah, so we could go 1 in August and 3 in September.
If we need to, sure. Yeah, like the first Monday's a holiday.
But you'd go to Tuesday, the 3rd, then the 16th, and then the 30th of September. Right, that's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah, we could do that.
And just have 1 in August.
And then that way we should be caught up by the end of
And
September.
because people have summer holidays in August and everything else, that's a hard
Well,
one.
you're gonna have
for
staff
people.
away
Staff
too,
might
aren't
be
you,
away.
maybe? Like, you don't know, right?
Right.
Like, you might.
Generally, there's no correspondence, there's virtually a
Yeah.
lot of
Pretty quiet.
stuff slows down in August.
Yeah.
Is it possible to just have the one on the 12th in August and then set one for the 3rd? And then see if you need a 16th and 30th, or you already know you'd need that, or how much notice do you have to give the public?
Well, the 3rd and the 16th are already set for September,
Okay.
so those are already set, so
Okay.
the only thing would be is if there was a special meeting that needed to be held.
An extra one, okay.
What we do is we plan for, once we know these dates, that's why we're asking now, is so we know, so planning applications would have to be backed up to
Oh, okay.
accommodate the date. So the cutoff date may change for those
Okay.
planning applications.
So we could leave the third meeting in September on an as needed basis.
Correct.
The 30th. Do you wanna do that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, can I have a motion that, we approve the recommendations cause we're back to the 12th, right?
So just the 12th in August and then the 3 meetings in
Or the 2 meetings in July,
the 2nd and the 15th?
8th and the 22nd. Those are the recommendations.
So 8th and the 22nd in July, the 12th in August, and the 3rd, 16th, and 30th in September.
Or the 16th.
Or even the 30th as a,
Tentative.
we'll decide on the
Tentative,
3rd kind
yeah.
of thing.
Okay, so kind of a mover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll second
Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Clark, all in favor? Okay, and, we also discussed starting the, May 21st meeting at 6 p.m. there, any, yes?
Do we think just an hour is going to be enough there's gonna be a full house again, I would imagine.
If I mean, the 6 o'clock start is to do our regular business, the public meeting is scheduled for 7:30.
7, okay.
Yes,
for
to give us an hour and
Okay.
somewhat to get through the
6 to
the
7.
planning application as well as most of the council agenda before the public meeting, so we don't have to cut the public meeting off or start at our regular meeting after that.
So public meeting at 7:30
Yes.
to your hour. Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Do we have a motion to that effect? Council Brody, seconded
Go
by
ahead,
Council McKinnon, all in favor? Okay. Our next item is the Emergency Management Program Committee appointment.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Hendricks. This report provides details of the revisions to the Emergency Management Program to ensure compliance with the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act. Legislation requires all municipalities to develop and maintain an emergency management program. The Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and Ontario Regulations 38004 requires all Ontario municipalities to maintain an emergency management program. Key elements of the emergency management program includes an emergency plan, training and exercise, public education, hazard identification, and risk assessments, also known as HIRA, and identifying critical infrastructure. The province provides oversight on an annual basis to ensure municipalities comply with the requirements. And the Office of the Fire Marshal and Emergency Management Field Officer recommends revising the township's emergency management program and response plan bylaw to ensure that the township will continue to meet the annual regulatory compliance. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has consistently met the annual regulatory compliance for its emergency management program since the legislation came into effect on December 31st, 2004. The township is responsible to meet compliance with the Act. Staff recommends that Council repeal the corporation of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe bylaw number 51 of 2017 and approve the draft emergency management program and emergency response bylaw number blank of 2019 as attached. The current bylaw 51 of 2017, which has met the needs in the past, is in need of revisions due to the council changes from 2018 municipal action and an annual review of the HIRA and critical infrastructure. The draft bylaw, with more details of the program and plan, define many specific items of the regulations, such as the emergency management program, the emergency response plan, appointment of the CEMC, Emergency Management Program Committee, the appointment of the mayor as the chair to the program committee, the appointment of the emergency control group members, the emergency operations center requirements, and the appointment of an EIO. The emergency response plan will have minor administrative changes to reflect the draft bylaw. These changes will be approved by the Emergency Management Program Committee, which is set for September. Past practices have indicated that the deputy mayor has been appointed by council as the EIO, and due to the 2018 municipal election, the township does not have an EIO appointed. Staff is looking for council's direction to appoint this position in order to be compliant for 2019. Financial impacts, there are none currently. My recommendation, and there's 4 different motions there. Resolve that council receive the Emergency Management Program Committee appointment staff report as presented by myself. Resolve that council authorize the repeal of bylaw 51 of 2017, this being the bylaw for an emergency management program and an emergency response plan, and that staff be directed to update the plan accordingly as approved by the Emergency Management Program Committee. Resolve that council appoint as the emergency information officer for the ECG, and resolve that council appoint the following positions and or their designate to the township to the Emergency Management Program Committee for Adelaide Metcalfe. So there's mayor as chair, the CAO treasurer, clerk, fire chief, CEMC alternate 1 and alternate 2, public works manager, EIO, and a scribe.
Okay. Let's deal with the motions one at a time. So, we have a motion to accept the report by the clerk. Yes, Councillor Brody and Councillor McKinnon. All in favor? Okay. And resolved that the council authorize the repeal of bylaw 51, being the bylaw for the emergency management program and the emergency response plan.
So moved.
Okay, Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Councilor Brody. All in favor? Okay. An appointment for the emergency information officer.
Also Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I'll third that.
I guess that's carried then. Okay, thank you so much.
Good job. Please.
And resolve that the council appoint the following positions and or their designate for the, in the township, for the emergency management program committee for the township. The mayor, the CAO, treasurer, clerk, fire chief, community emergency management coordinator, and 2 alternates, public works manager, the EIO, and a scribe. Is a scribe allowed to be one of the above persons?
We have 2 scribes now, and we only need 1, so we currently have Donna Elliott and Karen Robb who have taken their
Okay.
training.
Okay. Good, then I don't have to. Okay, can we have a motion for that? Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all in favor? And that's carried. Some fun stuff. Feral cats. And
I will take it away. So this report is based off of a decision from council from April 1st. It was moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Clark. Resolved that council direct staff to further investigate municipal cat control bylaws and report back to council. So I've done some intensive investigation. At the April 1st, 2019 council meeting, Councillor Clark advised council of a complaint package that was dropped off at the municipal office for her on March 28th. Part of the complaint package included excessive housing of cats. Staff investigated the complaint, and upon discussions with the concerned property, the owner advised that they had been working with Ontario Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, East Village Animal Hospital, and Humane Society for London Middlesex. Between all the groups involved, from June 2018 to February 2019, 30 stray feral cats have been picked up and removed from the property. The property owner supplied the township with proof of paperwork of the collaboration of the agencies and number of cats removed to date. The property owner continues to work with the agencies today and will provide further paperwork if and when cats are removed. This is all done at the expense of the property owner. Staff was satisfied at the time of the investigation that no further action was required. An in-depth investigation pertaining to the control of stray and feral cats has been conducted by myself. While there are a few options to deal with domestic cats, also known as pets, there are no options free of charge when dealing with stray feral cats due to the unknown health risks that these animals may carry. For example, rabies, FIV, toxoplasmosis, cat scratch fever, and ringworm that have the potential to cause harm to people or other animals, including household pets. I contacted area veterinary clinics, animal hospitals, as well as the Humane Society for London Middlesex. And below is a summary of the phone calls that I made. So the Strathroy Animal Clinic, they provide a barn cat spay neuter program once a year at the end of March at a reduced rate from their normal spay neuter program. The cost is borne to the owner bringing in the cats. At the regular rate is approximately $80 plus a rabies vaccination plus tax per male, and $250 plus rabies vaccination plus tax per female. The East Village Animal Hospital, they have a feral barn cat program. Live cats can be dropped off Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursdays and must be in traps. They do provide traps but are usually out of stock. When you drop off the cats, you do have to be a registered client with them in order to drop them off, and this includes an application form and approval process. and the cost is borne to the registered client, approximately $67.80 plus tax for females and $50.85 plus tax for males. The Animal Care Center in Lobo, they do not accept any cats. They refer individuals to the East Village Animal Hospital. Nauvoo Road Veterinary Services, which is in Watford, they will accept feral cats, but you have to call 2 weeks in advance to make an appointment. Cost to examine, provide vaccinations, and booster shot prior to spay and neuter is mandatory. And the approximate cost borne to the person bringing in the cat is $220 plus pain medications plus tax per male, and $260 plus pain medications plus tax per female if they are not pregnant. The Humane Society for London Middlesex, they do not take feral cats, only those that are brought in by an owner that are being put up for adoption. And a little bit about dogs versus cats. Most municipalities do have a dog bylaw to regulate and license dogs due to the Dog Owners Liability Act, which is also known as DOULA. This statute is governed by the Minister of Solicitor General. There is no statute nor ministry that governs cats or feral cats. Without provincial governance, municipalities are hard-pressed to enforce a bylaw that would remove cats that stray from properties. So I listed some options for council to consider. One is to stay status quo, and with the status quo, when we receive phone calls, we can let them know about the East Village Animal Hospital, Strathroy Animal Clinic, as well as Nauvoo Road Veterinary Services that where they can take cats. Option 2 is to implement a cat bylaw to prohibit or regulate cats. There are no provincial guidelines to assist with this regulation. Animal control officer could be involved for housing of cats if room and additional charge would apply to the township. Keep in mind that our current animal control officer does contract services out to other municipalities in the area, and the shelter most times does not have room to house cats. Option 3 is to implement a cat program using East Village Animal Hospital. Financial impacts. Cost for council's consideration. Staff requires direction from council on the following question. How much money is council willing to put into the budget to implement option 2 or 3? Funds to consider for the implementation of option 2 or 3. You could issue possible vouchers to go towards spay and neuter for each cat. Administrator to implement and maintain a cat program. A bylaw enforcement officer to enforce a bylaw if council chooses option 2, and additional fees to be paid to the current animal control officer. The use of a township vehicle to attend a cat call and or transport the cat to East Village Animal Hospital if council chooses option 3. Number of traps to be purchased by the township to loan out and or trap stray feral cats in order to go with option 2 or option 3. If council chooses option 2, fees can be associated with the taking of cats. This would offset some of the expenses. However, this will not take care of the stray feral cat problem, as these types of cats are homeless. The other issue to think about is the amount of time the bylaw enforcement officer will take to find the owner, and or if an owner admits to owning a cat found roaming on their property. Recommendation I have here that resolve that council approve the feral cats control options report as presented by myself, and that council approve to stay status quo due to costs associated with implementing a program or a bylaw, that there's no provincial governance for the regulation of cats, and due to health risks to staff associated with stray feral cats if they're carrying an illness.
Oh, I got lots to say. So when we first went down this road and discussing it, like I'm not talking about previous council, I'm talking about this one, I had undertaken and did call the health unit, and right here in your report you're acknowledging there are health risks, and I think we were all on the same page with that. The gentleman I spoke to at Middlesex Health Unit, he said that you can implement a bylaw where you restrict the number of cats. And you know, from our little road tour that day, we drove by a nice sunny day. There were 12 cats basking in the sunshine. So I recognize that the owner has stepped up, or the owner of the property rather has stepped up and turned in 30 cats or whatever. But I live on a farm. I've had the odd stray cat come around. If you don't feed them, they don't come back. So how do you educate that property owner to stop feeding these cats? And if she doesn't stop feeding them, that means she owns those cats, and they're hers, or theirs, or whoever the person is. So is there not something we can do to restrict the number of cats, as was suggested to me by the Middlesex Health Unit?
Through the chair, I spoke with Walter, who you spoke with.
Yeah.
He came here and we had a meeting with him and Jeff Denemy, our bylaw enforcement officer. He couldn't provide a bylaw to me that other municipalities have to enforce cats. He said, yeah, you could put one in, but I can't provide you an example because there is none. And the fact that there is no provincial governance governing feral cats. Some municipalities have cat bylaws, but they refer to them as an animal, so you license an animal, but it's an animal that is a domestic cat, so that would be a pet. The cats that we're having issue with are feral cats, because we have no proof to say that they're hers.
Okay, so does that fall under the team we have that looks after if a coyote eats my cat or eats my dog? I
That
already
would
know
be
the
through,
answer, I'm just causing trouble.
yeah,
but,
that would be through, oh, I don't know.
Ontario Wildlife
Yeah, thank
Relations,
you,
but
the
that
OT,
wouldn't
yeah.
be covered because it's not an agricultural
Yeah.
animal.
Yeah, yeah.
Coyotes, the coverage is only for sheep and other
Chicken.
animals, farm animals.
So then what do we do for the other people in that community? Do we provide, or do we ask for a road guy to go up and down the street and pick up the cat poop? Is that something we should consider?
If council wishes.
You're not living on the street and neither am I, so don't give me that look. If it was me, I can't stand cats, so that's the wrong person here. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I think something has to be done, and I don't, it's no easy answer, and the fact you can't just put your hands up in the air and say there's no legislation, there's none of this, none of that. Sometimes you have to be the first one to the front of the line.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm late. I was at the, I'm sure you already indicated, I was at the Stratford Caradoc Council meeting, giving a presentation with Bill for the county update. So, but I'm happy to get here for this topic. Through the Deputy Mayor, I completely agree with what Councillor Clark is saying. The hard part is that no one else obviously has had a bylaw because there's no example. But the thing is that we did see several cats when we were doing the township tour. You know, we saw 12 cats in the front lawn. When I was out campaigning in September, October, when I was going through the village, I saw several more cats. I know that we have had one formal complaint regarding this, but I know that when I was out campaigning in Kerwood, there was a few other people when I was talking with them that they also had concerns with the cats as well. It's just unfortunate that they haven't put that complaint forward. So I believe that we need to do something. I think we've all seen photos of the neighboring property with lots of feces in their backyard or in their flower beds, and we need to do something. I know that there will be a cost to it, but as Councillor Clark alluded to, I don't think anybody else would like to have stray cats going on their property as well and seeing as many as there are. So we need to do something. And if we have to be bold and put a bylaw in that nobody else has done that before, then we need to do that. Because I think if any of us lived in Kerwood, if there was somebody on council that lived in the village, this would be a very hot topic and we would have something done about it. But the fact is that we don't live near, no one on council lives in the village. No one lives beside or near this property with several cats. And I think the councillor mentioned it before at a previous meeting that if this was the case in, say, Butcher Creek or Pike, Napper, Healy Ave, something, I think those people would be very upset. And we need to do something, and we need to make a decision to move forward on this because we need to make a statement that this is not acceptable.
And if I might add, I think this is just part of beautifying Kerwood. Like Kerwood, we want that to be a showpiece in the middle of the community. This is just one cog in the wheel, and we're going to get to the rest of them as we go through the agenda.
So are you proposing a motion?
Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is, so. That we move that we consider option 2. I think it needs to be tweaked a little bit, whereby the number of cats per house, they're going to have to buy a tag like everybody else, like they do for dogs, I think, and limit it to 3. And and I think that if there's excess, then we were gonna have to have our the dog catcher. She can be the dog cat catcher. I don't know. That's just. I mean, we have to do something. I haven't thought it through in its entirety. I just think we need to limit the number of cats. There has to be a mechanism in place whereby if you have too many, then you get fined. Because sometimes people don't understand unless they have to pay. Anyway, go ahead, Nick.
I don't think we wanna go down a cat tag road. I'm just thinking, have a bylaw, this number of cats anymore, either you're gonna get fined or you're gonna recoup the cost to the dog catcher, say cat catcher, take them away.
So how do
How
you
do you do
enforce
that?
that if they got 12 cats and we're saying you can only have 3? What do you tell them? Pick 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 5, or whatever the number is, but it has to be, I don't think you can go and have a cat tag like we do dog tags. I think that'd be,
See, I'd be concerned in the village too. If you got little kids walking around, you don't know anything about these cats, and if they scratch
well,
one
Tom's
and
gonna get
and
beat.
they have rabies or something like that's not good.
They carry lots of things.
Absolutely.
Councillor McCann.
I'm just the opposite from Councillor Brody. I think there should be a tag associated with it to help offset some of the costs that the municipality would have to bear.
Yes. Mayor.
Through the deputy mayor to either Kathy or Jennifer, and I should have probably read through the dog bylaw. So what happens if there's more than the number of dogs that's allowed? Do we then, like when Vicky goes around and does the tagging, does she just tell them that they have to get rid of a dog, or what's that process?
If I may, our bylaw does not say you cannot have a certain number of dogs. The first dog is $25, the second dog is $35, and every additional dog is $45 for a tag. So it's
Is there a
monetarily-
maximum, or is it deemed a kennel after a certain point?
If
No,
you're
there's-
registered.
The only way you can get a kennel license is to be registered, and it has to be all one breed, and you have to be inside.
Okay.
And you have to be registered with the Kennel Society.
Oh, okay.
Canadian Kennel Club.
Mine, guess I get to speak too.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts are, I think we do have to control cats, and I think if somebody is feeding a cat, they're taking ownership of that animal. So I think we should seriously consider constructing a bylaw to limit the number, or not limit the number, but give it a graduated license fee to cat ownership. There will be people that keep their cats in the house. I'm not sure if we can or want to police that, but they're not a danger to the community, they're a danger to the homeowner. So, that's always an issue with cats that you don't generally get with dogs or larger animals.
Through the chair to Jennifer, was there not mentioned that Stratford Carlock had a cat bylaw? No?
No, through the Debonair, they don't have a cat bylaw.
Okay.
What they do have is an animal bylaw
And cats are listed under that
as a domestic,
as a
but not for stray or ferals.
Okay.
There's no bylaw out there that deals with stray or ferals. Because the problem is stray and ferals, they don't have ownership.
Yeah.
And then to try and find out, well, where do these cats come from? They must belong to somebody. Nobody takes ownership to them.
Right.
And I mean, it is a voluntary registration.
Yes.
It's not mandatory, it's voluntary.
Yes.
To me, we have one problem spot. So, like I said, I don't think having a cat tag across the whole municipality, I don't know. We have a problem area, we need to do something on that problem spot. We need to either send how many cats are allowed on that property, period, or they're gonna be fined until they clean it up.
Further to that, what you could do is you could have it in densely populated areas, so you're not targeting. You would say, you know, Healy subdivision, Country Creek, any, where there's more than
Settlement area.
Karen Farm, like any of the hamlet areas. I would say that, then that way, if it comes up in another pocket, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we're not being selective.
I think our discussion's coming to a point where we're almost ready to get a motion done, so I can get out of this chair pretty soon.
What's the magic number, cats?
Is there a graduated tagging system? I don't know if you can tag in, no, I don't think you can tag if you're targeting certain areas, then you need to apply it to the settlement area bylaw.
Well, within any of the hamlet areas, and do you want to list them? Because then you have that Grogard subdivision or whatever it's called. Grogas, sorry. That subdivision, you'd have Buttery Creek, Napier, you'd have Kerwood, you'd have Cairngorm. I don't know, is Walker's Corner, or that's, I guess you could, technically there's a concentration of homes there as well.
Okay.
And did we miss anything, or that's
The
it?
corridor, because you got,
Pike Side Road? Or what are you talking about?
well,
81.
81
Or
corridor,
81 Highway?
right, you don't have how many houses
Yep, no,
all-
that's fair.
Right,
Yeah.
I'd probably say just with the motion having it so that's a cat bylaw to prohibit and regulate cats within the settlement areas.
Of the township.
Yeah.
So you're creating that motion,
I guess so,
Mr.
yes.
Mayor? Can I have a
Oh,
second?
for sure, yeah.
And through the deputy mayor, you put in a maximum?
I think so. I think like 4's got to be a lot.
4 becomes 20 in a year.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a little disappointed with the health unit because he said that there are some out there and they restrict it to 2 to 3. So I mean we could even though maybe is that what Stratford Caradoc is under their animal one? Do they restrict it to 2 to 3 or we
Don't know what their
Okay.
max minimum is. I just know it's voluntary and it's domestic.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if those cats multiply, they gotta get rid of them in those areas.
And I think if you feed a cat, you're domesticating it.
Well, and you're taking ownership.
Yeah.
And then just with Stratford Caradoc, with their dog tagging system, it's also technically voluntary as well. So you get one tag. I don't know if it's paid for that tag or not, but it is good for the life of that dog. So you don't have to go around and get a tag, like a new tag every year. You get one tag for that dog for the lifespan of it. And you just register it at town hall. That's the process that they have there as well. It's not, every year that they get a new tag, so it's just,
But our dog, it's every year, right?
So-
So we could do a lot, like for the lifetime of the cat, I mean,
Yeah.
because they live forever. So do we want that in there too? I know we keep changing this, but. So what's the magic number for cats? It'd be 0 at my house, but I'm not a cat lover, so got me wrong.
2 or 3.
What do you think?
I've
Vivian?
had as high as 20.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And then the coyotes came. And they weren't my cats.
It's kind of weird. I think if you set it at 2 or 3, and then if somebody comes in and has 10 cats and there's no complaints, they have them in a building, they take care of them properly, maybe they ask for a waive, but
Yeah.
I
If you
don't
had
know.
the bylaw though,
Yeah,
you've
that's
got
true.
to enforce it. My concern is under what regulation are we going to enforce it? That's the concern I have with trying to do cat bylaw.
well, we're just trying to get a problem areas
Mm-hmm.
solved, so I think
I
you
would.
do it, you try it, see how it goes.
Because we can do an amendment if we have to. So do you want to set it at 3? 3?
Yep.
Okay, 3 it is.
Madam Clerk, could you read the
Sure.
the motion as
Sure.
you understand it?
Sure. Resolve that council support implementing a bylaw to regulate cats in settlement areas with a maximum of 3 cats per household, with the hamlet areas to be listed as a schedule in the bylaw, with a tag for the lifetime of the life of the cat. I'm not sure how to really word that, but I get what council's trying to do. I'll have to wordsmith that.
And
But
do you
for
want
the
it at the same pricing as the dogs? Cause it's for the lifetime, so, right?
How much is the dog? I'm not even sure.
Well, the dog's $25 a year for the first one, 35 for the second, and 45 for the third.
Yeah.
Do we have different rates for males, females, and spay? No.
If I may, you'll have ongoing enforcement costs, so if it's a one-time fee and it's good for the life of the cat, then
You're
how
gonna
do you
be able to
continue to
lose
go
it,
back?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well then do it annually if she's there for the dogs anyway. She goes house to house, does she not? The dog, yeah.
She doesn't pick them up though, does she? She'll take them if you take them to her place.
Yeah.
No, she comes to
will-
your house to see if you have a
yeah.
dog,
Oh,
she
yes.
can see, ask if you have a
Yeah.
cat, if you
Yeah.
love it,
Yeah.
that's one thing I guess, but.
You could do
Yeah.
just a per se small cat fee. Do you have cat, 2 cats, whatever? Okay, it's $20 or $25. Do it that way. Keep it low. It's a little bit different than dogs.
Or we could leave the fee. How did we determine the dog fee?
Goes through the courts.
The-
Doesn't it?
No, not for the tagging, is determined by the township, and it's enough to cover the cost of having the dog control program in place. To register the tags as well as go out and pick them up and cover our costs on a monthly basis.
But the fee setting, the running at large and dog with no leash or.
Right,
Well,
but that's,
that
yeah,
goes
that's,
through the courts.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
different
The
than the
fines,
tag, so.
Yeah.
But whoever's doing that job's gonna want more money if she's gonna have to worry about cats as well as dogs. So there goes the cost increase, right?
Yeah, but if she's at the door anyway, she goes to every single house and asks if you have a dog. So she's gonna be there anyway.
So at this point, maybe you want just the tag program to be developed, and then we can look
Yeah.
at what
Yeah.
what will be the best, because we do have to find out what the cost will
That's a good
be.
idea.
Cause I
What the
think we
charge
need to know
will
what
be
she's
for
wanting to
that,
charge, yeah.
correct.
So
But she'll
can we
want
leave
charge.
that open-ended, but
Yes.
at least draft this to get it going and then we'll tweak it. So the cost to be determined after consultation with the dog/cat catcher or tagger, whatever she is.
Animal control
Thank you, thank
officer,
you.
or animal control officer. So the mover and seconder are okay with the on-the-fly amendments we've made?
Yep.
If there's no more discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. And it's carried, and I shall relinquish the chair to our mayor, if I may. We haven't appointed anybody to the,
To the Ponky drain.
Emergency.
No, the Ponky drain.
If,
So I jump back to
if we
that.
also accept the report from the clerk in regards to the feral cat control options report for the minutes.
A motion to accept the report by Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Yeah, send that over. The action items.
CCR.
move that? Okay, you moved it and I seconded it.
I may not be there.
Okay, well, we moved. So what about if, is it Jim? Is he the drainage guy? Or would he be there anyway? At the Conkey drain?
I think you have to have a member of council, not a staff person, like the drainage can be there as sort of a person that can say, yes, this is good, or no, you should change this, but I think it has to be on the quarter revision, a member of council.
We actually had in our last quarter revision with Southwest Middlesex, Elizabeth Jeffrey, their drainage superintendent, acted as.
I was gonna question that then,
Yes,
because,
It's just that they appoint, as long as it's appointed by council, that's what they vote for.
I didn't think that was right, but it may have changed since I was on council.
And I don't know enough about it to have an opinion.
Yeah, I'm attending FCM and I'm planning on going ahead of time, so I will
Okay,
be there.
okay.
So, is there anyone from council wishing to be appointed to the quarter revision for the Conkey drain?
I won't be around.
I'll be too big, like, no.
Deputy Mayor Hendricks?
I'm just double checking the date is,
May 27th.
what day of the week is
It's a
that?
Monday,
It's a
Memorial
Thursday.
Day.
The
It's
27th.
Thursday.
It's a Monday.
It's Monday.
Oh, is it Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, if it,
It says Thursday.
I could
Yeah, it
attend
does.
that.
I know.
Unless they've got the wrong date or the wrong day, maybe you need to clarify that.
I might have looked at the wrong one.
No, it says
No, it's-
4:05 p.m. on Monday, the 27th of May.
Oh, there you go.
So that's correct then.
Look at June, that was a problem.
Yeah, lots going on. Flipping that calendar. Sorry.
Yeah, I could attend that.
Okay. So we resolve that council appoint Deputy Mayor Hendricks to sit on the quarter revision for the Conkey Drain Branch A scheduled for Monday, May 27th, 2019 at 4:05 p.m. at the Warwick Community Center. Okay, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. So on the agenda, we're now caught up to
C4.
C4. All right. Chair expert.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So this is the staff report for the draft property standards bylaw. This report outlines proposed updates to property standards bylaw and procedures. As of July 1st, 2018, the Ontario Municipal of Housing no longer investigates complaints from residential tenants regarding property maintenance issues. On that date, all municipalities within Ontario were required to enact a property standards bylaw or have staff available to inspect complaints from residential tenants against the maintenance standards contained within the Residential Tenancy Act. The current property standards bylaw for the township sets out general standards for exterior maintenance. At a past meeting of council, staff was directed to review the current property standards bylaw to amend the processes involved to mitigate court costs. While reviewing the property standards bylaw, information was found regarding the July 1st, 2018 mandate. Since then, staff has worked together to include interior standards, structural elements, plumbing, electrical, heating, lighting, ventilation, safety and security elements, and general maintenance. The draft bylaw is being proposed to remain complaint-driven and will be enforced by order and certificate of compliance with any appeals being brought forward to the Property Standards Committee that was appointed at the January 21st council meeting. Attached is the draft process for staff to follow should a complaint be received at the municipal office. Financial impact. There are unknown financial impacts to the budget. If a complaint is received, this will require more staff time for the clerk through correspondence with the property owner and more staff time for the bylaw enforcement officer for site inspections and investigations. Costs are recoverable through the Building Code Act and Municipal Act. My recommendation, resolve that council receive the draft property standards bylaw staff report as presented by myself, and that the draft bylaw come back to the next council meeting for comment and discussion. At that time, Chief Building Official and Bylaw Enforcement Officer Jeff Dennemy will also be present, so if council has questions regarding enforcement, they can ask him directly.
So
Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. Is there any discussion on this at this time? All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
One more. Tidy yard, and it's basically the same thing since we're doing property standards. It was felt to do the tidy yard at the same time. Property standards looks after building maintenance. Tidy yard looks after yard maintenance. So I don't want council to get confused with the two. So when we're dealing with derelict vehicles, that is a tidy yard bylaw, not a property standards bylaw. This report outlines proposed updates to bylaw number 35 of 2015, being the tidy yard bylaw. Staff was directed by council to review and update the tidy yard bylaw. The chief building official, bylaw enforcement officer, and the clerk worked together and have completed the review. A section has been added to create an offense, which will allow the bylaw enforcement officer to issue fines under the Provincial Offences Act. Notice provisions: the bylaw enforcement officer shall notice a violation, post on the land or by prepaid first-class mail sent to the owners of the land or structure. Require the owner within the time period specified in the notice of violation to take such action as may be necessary to bring the land or structure in compliance with the terms, conditions, and requirements of the proposed bylaw. Recover of expenses: where an owner has defaulted in complying with the provisions of the proposed bylaw, the township may recover all costs, expenses incurred in bringing the lands into compliance from the owner by action or by adding the cost expenses to the land's tax roll and collecting them in the same manner as property taxes. Vexatious and frivolous or unreasonably persistent requests or complaints: this has been added to the proposed bylaw to help eliminate such complaints. Once council is satisfied with the proposed bylaw, the bylaw will be sent to the Ministry of Attorney General through the Provincial Offences Act for approval of Schedule D, which is your fine schedule that's been created. Financial impact: there are unknown financial impacts to the budget. If a complaint is received, this will require more staff time for the clerk through correspondence with the property owner, and more staff time for the bylaw enforcement officer for site inspections and investigations. Costs are recoverable through the Municipal Act. Recommendation: resolve that council will receive the draft tidy yard bylaw staff report as presented by myself, and that the draft bylaw come back to the next council meeting for comment and discussion. And just a little comment on that the chief building official and bylaw enforcement officer will be here for discussion of this bylaw, so you'll have both bylaws at the same time when staff is here to discuss.
Mover and seconder, Councillor McKinnon and Councillor Brody. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I was going through the tidy yard bylaw and I was kind of thinking it almost fit in section 3 of the property standards. But I'm looking at the definition of a yard because it's not clear to me that this is for residences based on their zoning or large lots. That part isn't clear to me, and I'm just I'm wondering what's the limit of what we call a yard.
Through the mayor, there is no limit. A yard is a yard. It's whatever the property boundaries are.
Okay, so it could be a farm property technically.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, then I did see under there was somewhere listed about water.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the runoff or something?
No, it was listed exemptions. You couldn't leave standing water deeper than a foot, and you probably need to add an exception to the list for things like cattle ponds or livestock ponds.
I think that's part of more the farming operation and not part of the
Yeah.
lawn or like a yard itself.
Yeah, just because it isn't clear to me that it exempts farm properties.
So, if I may, so the existing bylaw is just for settlement areas, is it not? Or is it for every wide township wide? Okay. So there's no specific restriction. I'm thinking of a different municipality where you're not allowed to have more than 2 unlicensed vehicles. So it's just If it's not licensed, it shouldn't be on the property.
Right.
Or if it's licensed but not running, it has to be a valid, active license, correct?
Basically, you'll need to have a valid sticker on the license plate.
Thank you.
I'm just going back to Deputy Mayor Hendricks. And this is for sake of my knowledge, because I'm not on a farm, wasn't born on a farm, wasn't raised on a farm. So for cattle ponds, is there barriers?
No, because then cattle can't get in there.
Or the irrigation ponds and
Well,
Not so much.
irrigation ponds are are an exception somewhere.
But like you said, that's not
It's not part of your
problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically like standing water for mosquitoes, basically, is what it's aiming
Yeah.
towards.
So, and not that this comes in under this, probably comes in under the building code, but years ago, when you put a swimming pool in, you didn't need to have a fence.
Now you do.
It's in there now, correct?
We do have a fencing bylaw, but that only pertains to swimming pools.
Okay. Sorry to go
Oh, that's okay.
off topic.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments?
We're to bring them back next week,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or next
Yeah.
meeting, sorry.
If there's any just broad,
So broad
Yeah.
comment is, there is a building in downtown Kerwood that I think should either have caution tape on it or a gate barring access. If the little kid's walking around downtown Kerwood, there is a structure there that you can easily walk in the front door. It's not boarded up, and that's a safety concern. So I don't know if that comes under the fire department or that's a building issue, but I think that needs to be addressed.
we'll bring that up under other business.
Okay, all right.
If I could, there's just one general broad comment, and I understand why in the past we've had it this way and why it's recommended this way as well, which is that it be on a complaint basis. I understand that we don't want to, have a bylaw enforcement officer going out and, finding problems or people that aren't in compliance. But at a certain point, I think it's hard, and unless we go ahead when it first gets approved, that we go ahead and we not target, we look at this and we seriously go ahead with our bylaw.
Non-compliant.
The non-compliance of, okay, let's approve this and send the bylaw enforcement officer out there and get, everybody up to shape. Because the problem that I see is that if it's a complaint basis, I don't think our employees should just be turning a blind eye, even if it is, so-and-so that has their grass too high or whatever it is. I think we need to be proactive on some of those measures and having it so that it doesn't have to be just a complaint. I think that when something, whether it's Councillor Clark coming up saying there's a building on Main Street in Kerwin that needs to be dealt with, does that need to be a formal complaint from a council member? Probably not. I think that should just go ahead and, talk to staff. Or if our bylaw enforcement officer or if our roads guys, when they're, grading the road, they see something wrong, it's a simple process of informing the bylaw enforcement officer to do something about that. Yeah.
If I may, so taxes are due the end of this month, and then when's the next catchment, like the next batch will go out in August?
In August.
So I'm thinking by the time we get our stuff together here, could possibly something go out with the taxes, notifying people that this bylaw is in effect, so that they've been put on notice, and that gives them a chance to get a car off their property or whatever, so that everybody's got fair notice. But as a starting point, that's just an idea.
No.
Makes sense.
Director Hendricks?
I don't have an issue with going after flagrant, obvious violations. But I think we prioritize. I mean, we're not gonna hire extra people to do this job, so I think the priorities are where the complaints are coming from, so.
To start with, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And really, people's pride will, if the neighbors' places are all getting cleaned up, then nobody wants to be the dirty guy on the block. So, once you start cleaning up a little bit, the rest will come quicker.
The only reason I bring it up, I just wanna make sure that with bylaw enforcement, that it's not just really just a complaint system. It's if the bylaw enforcement officer or roads department, whoever the staff member is, if they see something that's not in compliance, go ahead and, get that dealt with. You shouldn't have to wait for a complaint to come in.
Yeah, when you know better, you do better, but you can't just turn a blind eye.
Okay, so that was moved by Councilor McKinnon and seconded by Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And I was talking, before I go on the CAO Treasurer's reports, I was talking with Kathy last week about also the idea of an additional parking bylaw. So we had issues with complaints of people parking on the sidewalks and having new sidewalks possibly being installed in the township as well. I think that council should be looking at that proactively to see if we should implement a parking bylaw. So Kathy and Jeff will be putting something together for our next meeting for us to look at to see if we should be implementing that bylaw as well. Okay, Kathy.
Thank you, Commissioner. First item is the accounts approval list for the period April 12th, 2019 to May 2, 2019 in the amount of $58,273.46.
Okay, is there any questions on the accounts? Councilor Clark?
I just have one, 001394 and 1395. Those are refunds for road security deposits. So that was just, because there's one I'm looking at, the 1394, and there's still construction underway. So is it only for a specific time when we're in the half load, or?
Correct.
That's it? Okay, thanks.
Yes, the half load expired on May 1st, and
So
these
then-
have both been
Perfect.
reviewed by the Public Works Manager, and he has approved both refunds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so a motion to resolve the council approve the account listings for the period April 12th, 2019 to May 2nd, 2019 in the amount of $58,273.46 as presented.
So moved.
Okay, Councilor Clark and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
Second report is in regards to the release of an encroachment agreement.
I declared a conflict, so I'll remove myself.
Okay.
I love some.
The former township of Metcalfe had entered into an encroachment agreement with George Bennett at 2667 Catesville Drive in July of 1989. The agreement was registered on title. The encroachment agreement was to recognize that a metal-clad building on the north limit of the property had encroached onto the road allowance between concessions 1 and 2. The metal-clad building has been removed from the property and the road allowance. Chief Building Official Jeff Denemy has confirmed that the building has been cleaned to his satisfaction, and Mr. Bennett is now requesting municipal consent to have the encroachment agreement released. There is no financial impact to the township. There was a nominal fee of $1 per year for the encroachment. The registration of the release is at the expense of the property owner. And the recommendation is that council accept the release of encroachment agreement report as presented by the CAO Treasurer and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the consent to release the encroachment agreement.
Mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Hendricks, seconded by Councilor Brody. Any discussion? I just had one question, not in regards to the encroachment agreement itself, but the building. So it did get moved within the township of Adelaide Metcalfe, and just wondering if that building got a permit, received a permit.
Well, it was demolished, wasn't
That I am not aware of. We just know that it was demolished it was removed from that property and cleaned up to the satisfaction of the CBO.
Okay, I think we need to look into that. Okay. So it was moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried.
The next item is the 2019 budget. I circulated to council a copy of the draft budget as well as a summary of the amendments to the budget. Council had directed that the budget reflect a 0% tax increase. With the proposed changes, the tax rate increase is at 1.259%. There are some avenues that council may wish to pursue to come up with the 0%. We do have to find an additional $48,984 to be taken from the budget. we can, the options that are being presented is to come out of reserves. We could use a portion of the unconditional funding of $308,544 to offset the OMPF reduction. We could reduce the transfers to reserves that aren't already reduced, or reduce portions of the roads budget. Example, there's the high top maintenance is $398,000, or the salt shed engineering would be $20,000.
Okay, any thoughts? Councillor Brody?
Salt shed engineering. I feel we need to do something over there, but I also feel we have to look at the big picture right away before we do that. So is it, should we be putting that 20,000 there now to, or do we need that in this year's budget to
Good
look
question.
at? I mean,
So, and just for clarification, you're saying determine if we're going to look at the hub and look at making changes. Yeah, I agree.
I think we need to, we all agree we need to look at this big picture right away first before we decide if we're gonna keep that and do it. So why have that 20,000 in there now? We're already halfway through our first year, right? Is that something that you put off just till the next one? The gain is 20.
It's something that by the time we hopefully make a decision in the 2019 year,
We need to make a
that
decision.
we need to make a decision, then we can just allocate those funds into the 2020 budget, no matter what, where or what
I
it is.
agree with that, yeah.
Councillor Clark?
So under the roadways department, it says other collections include 15,000 from unconditional funding for GPS system compatible with asset management program. So maybe I'm misunderstanding, but is that what we need to shell out for the GPS, or that's surely not an insurance reduction for getting it?
No, what that is just recognizing that we'll use some of the unconditional funding to offset the cost. Jeff had in his budget 15,000 for the GPS.
Okay.
There's an inclusion of 35 in the administration portion, which we estimate to be about 50,000 for an all-encompassing package plus training for staff to be able to operate the program.
Okay.
And so it's just recognizing that 15,000 of the unconditional funding would be used in the budget.
Okay, so when the insurer was here talking about the GPS, I had asked if there would be a reduction in our premium, and he said yes, he'd get back to us. So did he ever get back to us to tell us what the limit would be?
No, not until we have it in place and we show that it's operating.
But before you make that decision, he should be able to tell us what, if you do this, you're gonna get that.
Yeah, I would.
He never got back to you?
No, and I would think that it's probably only gonna be a couple $1,000 in
I'd be
our
shocked
premium.
if
If it makes a difference in our liability, I would be
Yeah, but I
really
mean, it's a
surprised.
couple of grand there, we're now at
Yeah.
22, so we're like, do you wanna cut the donation to the hospitals? Okay, they're now at 40, so I just need 8 more, I can make it happen, so.
Councillor Finn?
And I wondered under administration, for the interest on standing taxes, we budgeted in 2018 50,000 and took in 94,000, and we budgeted for 60. Should we maybe make that a more realistic number, maybe 75?
That's not actually money we've collected, that's what
No.
we've charged. So we
Yes.
haven't actually collected all of
No.
that money. So that's what we charge every year, but there is portions that may become uncollectible as the town arrears get older. We're able to register the properties, but we're
Yeah.
only allowed to collect a certain amount.
But then, once it's registered, we have the option that after a year, we can place it up for tax sale and get the outstanding tax money, at least that back.
If the property is valued at that, that's the problem. If the
Yeah.
property's not valued at it, we have no uncollectible tax reserve, so it would just be trading that in. So it's not actually money that we're receiving. It's just an estimate, and we have done some really big collections this year, so we don't have that third year arrears like we did.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark?
So are you legislated as to how much interest you can charge on,
Yes.
yeah, it's legislated? Oh, okay, thanks. I was gonna say jack it up.
Yeah, we are unfortunately legislated, yes.
Yeah, exactly,
1.2.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so Kathy, just looking at the unconditional funding, So you're using $60,000 for administration, and then $15,000 in the roads department.
No, total altogether of 50,000 for both. So it'll be 35 or 25 in the what did I put on there? Did I not have that there? 25 for the website. Oh yeah, 25 for the website, and the asset management would be 35 with 15 in the roads budget for the GPS. They work hand in hand, but Jeff had already had that in his budget, so instead of taking it all out and putting it into the administration budget, I just moved the 15 over to his budget.
Okay, so it's 60 then that we're using?
Yes. 25 for the website too.
Okay, is there anything else you can see as that can be used for that funding that, you know, helps with modernization or those buzzwords that the province likes to use?
Not without adding an additional expense.
So is council right now thinking to remove the salt and sand and salt shed engineering for $20,000? I think everyone's agreeing on that one. So we're looking for an additional $30,000 that we can either just add in from the initial funding or using it for reserves or reduce the reserves.
I'd like to find it if it's reserves. I mean,
And you just send forward your expenses to a future year.
Councillor Kenny?
Going back to the roads for repairs and maintenance on the facilities, we put 50,000. Well, there again, should we determine what we're going to be doing for the big picture before we put an additional 50,000 in on Napier and
If I may, though, one of the items is the furnace, and the other is the generator, which we can't really operate without if something happens. So that was 18,000 of that, with 20 being.
there's 32.
So there's your 30 and your 20,
Yeah.
you're good to go.
Mhm.
If the furnace breaks down, what do we do?
Yeah.
Because it won't be built before we have a furnace issue, and they gathered together last season to get it through the final of the season, yes.
yeah, you're gonna do the furnace and
Yeah.
and add on the 18,000, correct?
I
So she's
suggested-
recommending cutting that out.
Yeah.
Councilman Ken just suggested cutting that out,
Yeah.
the generator and the furnace.
Yeah, we have to have that there. Don't we?
And what's wrong with the current generator?
There isn't one.
There's a portable one.
There's a portable one, yes, and they're looking at having a permanent one, so the portable one would be available if they needed it elsewhere.
And it goes back to Councillor Brody's comment that if you install the permanent one, then we may as well just throw the $20,000 back in for the sand salt salt
Mhm.
shed then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, unless from a renovation mindset, I'm thinking if the furnace could be reused in a new building. Like, maybe not, but right,
Yeah,
depending
your
on the
neighbors
size,
probably
might not be sized properly.
They
so-
really got half of what your generators were.
Mhm. If we've gotten along this many years with just a portable generator, why not extend it for another year?
For 160 and 160.
And Kathy, this shop here, does it have a permanent generator?
Yes.
So that would be one, so if we were to relocate somewhere, we don't need two,
No.
that's what I'm getting at.
No.
But the furnace has to be fixed. And that was how much of it?
10.
Let's leave the furnace in there, cause that has to, we won't make a decision by then, it's gonna be used, it'll have to be in there, right? So why don't we cut out postpone the generator for now?
Because they can get by with it.
They can get by.
Yeah, they were talking about moving the portable generator, and I'm not sure what use, where the other generator would be used then. This building has a generator.
Mhm.
permanent ones or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how much was the permanent generator?
8,000.
So what are we at? 20 for the salt shed, 8 for the generator.
So you go to 20.
And how much was that furnace then?
10.
And that's replacing both of them or just the one? Because there's two.
I believe it was both of them, yes.
I like my hard copy.
There's radio too, right, so 10,000, yeah, it'll be, it's just around the tubes.
Councillor Clark?
I know this is not gonna be popular, but, you know, maybe we need to trim back the donations a bit more. Like even to 15, and it's not popular, but I mean, most of us councillors took a wage reduction, so I have no qualms about recommending that.
Then you had one thing in here about the hard servicing, is that higher than it was last year, or is that
That's
status quo?
about the same.
About the
yes.
same? And we
Yes.
use that religiously every year, like that number?
Seems to be what we put in there, yes.
Okay.
There was 2 projects identified. One was Cuddy Drive and one was Catesville, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I know what.
Do we have anywhere in the budget Main Street funding that we have that's $40,000?
No, because it's specific to projects. We can't use it for anything. It has to be used for specific items.
Can we use it for sidewalks on Highway 81?
No. It has to be for community improvements. If it's not engineering, you can't use it for engineering. It has to be for actual physical things. You can do a community improvement program, but the program already has to be established. You can't use those funds to establish a program.
Okay.
So could we slide that in somewhere creatively?
We-
Like the grass cutting that maintains the community? No?
No, if I have to do reporting on it and I have to report, the
the
project needs to be approved by AMO and it has to be reported on. So it has to be the dual purpose.
Okay.
Through you, Mayor Curtis, to Kathy, on Highway 81 sewers, the capital improvements, we've gone from 25,000 to 100,000. Could you refresh my memory on that?
And that's based on what Strathroy Care Doc is proposing to do in their budget, yes. And they're just
And
short
that's
of,
a hard.
that is a hard number, they're just short of 100,000, it's 97
Okay,
something for the repairs that they're planning to do this year.
okay.
And that's our 12.85%.
Thank you.
Not that this is going to be popular either, but we could also reduce the transfer to reserves from Parks and Rec, considering we do have over $100,000 from Suncor that we are not using yet.
That would be more palatable to me than cutting out the hospital.
Provided we got something done there.
Yes. Yes.
So that's not cutting what we're gonna do now, fixing it up now, 'cause that needs to be done. Yeah. So you're basically saying,
Just don't put money into reserves this year for the park.
we're gonna spend money there, so that's not actually a terrible idea, because there's money there.
Because realistically, we've gone from a 2018 budget of repairs and maintenance and for facilities of $5,000 up to 18, and the transfer to reserves was $0 last year and now $10,000 this year. So there's quite an increase.
We can pick that up,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was that 25, Mayor Curtis?
10,000.
10?
So
So
that
we have
gets us
38.
30, what, 48?
38, so we need another 11,000.
Is that, just help me with my math here, which I can't believe I'm saying out loud. So the 1 whatever percent, the 48,000 was, does that mean that half, 1.25, does that mean that if you cut it by half, that the increase is 1 point, or
0.7.
point?
Okay.
Yeah, so 1.259% is the 48,090
Okay, so,
increase.
so if you're at 38, you're at 3/4 of that, so you're about at 1/4%.
0.4 or whatever it would be. 0.3, yeah, 0.3.
Kathy, remind me how you do the planning and zoning. So we have our income of the revenue of fees and everything else, and then we have the planning services, which is $35,000, which is technically through the county levy. So where do we make, where's the, because it should be a wash. So where's that $35,000 coming back to us?
It's just the additional that we pay to the county every year. That's
For like the special
For the-
policy area, that'll be an additional cost to
just, no,
us.
just for our general levy increase.
So do we pay, are we assessed a flat annual rate for the planning, for planning
It's
services?
part of our levy. So we pay our levy to the county,
So
that's
if
part
we
of
have
it.
one planning application or 100, we still pay the same amount?
But that is based, that's off of the levy though. So technically, we should be having, that should be an income somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gotta be an offset.
Yeah, because that $35,000, we're not paying that to the county, that's just what will go
We've
to
we've
the
got-
county levy.
On the summary page at the front, we've got 33.8 coming in. So that's planning application fees.
Correct.
So it's only costing us net about 1,200 by budget.
But it should be, the county is paying for those expenses. So Aaron's, like, we don't pay $35,000.
Correct. We pay an additional, what we used to pay in our levy is increased by that amount.
But then that means that when the county provides us with their amount, that we should be reducing the county levy for Adelaide Metcalfe by $5,000. Because it should be, it's on the levy for the county.
But then to do the special policy area, are we not charged extra for that?
Yeah, but it wouldn't be 35,000.
Because that will be part of our services. That's part of
That's
it.
part of
Yes.
it.
A complete review would be in addition to that.
Okay.
I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, but if that's the case, then the amount that we're putting towards the county levy should be reduced by $35,000.
Mhm.
So then we would have to look at our fees. Because we use that number of the 35,000, which is our additional cost, to be able to set our fees for our collection, for our applications.
Yeah, but all the lower tier municipalities did the same thing. They left their fees alone, and they just, the expense for the planner is just at the county level.
So then is it wrong to add that 35 back in and say we actually have a surplus of 24,000? By cutting those other things?
Then if we were wrong by chance, we have a surplus of 24,000, wouldn't be
We would,
totally a disaster if,
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's always going to be surprises that you can't. I mean,
yeah.
we might have a surprise legal fee or who the hell knows, right? It could be anything.
Yeah, okay, I would say look into that area with either Dirk or Bill or other municipalities see what they do, but that's how at county council, that's how it was presented, that it should be, they take on all the expense, the county takes on all the expense of the regular day-to-day planning, and we get to keep all the fees. It was really
So
a
maybe just
really big
adjust
win
for
for the
parents.
years,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that'll give us something to work with.
Yeah, that was set up with the auditors, and that's what we had discussed, so I will confirm with them that that's how it should be.
Because we're not writing a check for that amount to the
No.
county.
No,
No.
The count is,
See, I thought we were, I don't know why.
because we used to before we absorbed the county services.
That's right.
Mhm.
Okay, so then we don't need an increase, and we'd have a surplus of 24 if everything, all the stars lined up.
I would say we could still, I would still use, what did we count, the 8?
What we could do is if the
Put the
35,
donations and throw the rest into a rec reserve to make it 0. That's would be what I would.
Well, it's gonna be at 0 anyway, you know, at this point, you're gonna be to the good 24,000. So,
Put it in the reserve.
so we're not
And
getting
what-
rebates on taxes, but I think we could do 0 then.
yeah, that's what Deputy Mayor Hendricks is saying, that if we are, if we were to remove that $35,000, we're then in
You can
the
throw
rate,
it
and
back.
then put it back into reserves.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Alright.
And then if somehow that 35 is not able to come out,
So that's 70.
then
So we just wanna have clarification before we do the final approval.
Mhm.
So that's 73,000, we're taking out
2010,
28, 38, and
73. Yeah, so $20,000 for the sand and salts, the $8,000 for the generator, the $10,000 for the parks and rec reserve, and then 35,000 for the thing. And then
That gives us a 24,000 buffer.
You can transfer, okay.
The worst case scenario, if that 35 has to stay, the 24 goes back to that, we'll have to pull 10 out of reserve to keep
Which is
it.
livable.
you just use it out of the one-time funding or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is to accept the report. Do you need a motion to head that direction, Kathy?
Nope, we'll bring it back next week.
Okay. Alright, so that's resolved. Is there anything else for the budget before we have the motion to set the report? No. Moving motion to do so then?
So
Okay, Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, do we have anything for other business? We'll start with Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
Yeah, I attended the Blue Water meeting, but the report's already in here, so I won't go through the whole thing again. But it's under the recommended reading, and that's what the information I received at the meeting, so.
following up on that, the email that Councillor Clark sent out was really informative.
Oh, about the thing on the news, like Francis Bellman was, yeah, I thought, it's very, I hope some ratepayers saw it, because it, like, when people say, oh, how come we have to pay $2? Well, you're so far funded, it's unbelievable, right? So it was very informative, so, yeah.
Just going back to our meeting tonight, we had suggested that the May 21st meeting be the special policy area study meeting, and that it begin at 6 p.m. for the regular meeting. And I'm just wondering if that's how it sounds in our motion. Resolve the council amend the start time on May 21st to 6 p.m. to accommodate the public meeting regarding the special policy areas, which is, you said starting at 7:30, you thought.
Cause that
Should we
suggests
put-
that special policy starts
Yeah.
at 6,
Yeah.
yeah. Good point.
But it is.
Yeah, you just wanna make sure that
Yeah, the
7:30,
special policy
yeah.
people aren't here at 6 p.m.
So maybe then,
Maybe just, to accommodate the public meeting is scheduled for that evening.
that's 7:30.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The administrators felt that an hour and a half was enough time to get through the agenda of that meeting with the two plans.
Most of it, I
Yeah.
do homework,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but it'll get, that's a good start on the agenda.
Cause if you don't start till after, that could be a problem.
I thought we might have to have a special meeting just to handle it, but
Okay. Is there anything else for other business? Councillor Clark, you were mentioning a building that you feel is unsafe.
Yeah, there's a building, I don't know who owns it or whatever, but it's a vacant building across from Woods' General Store. And when you drive by, I was gonna get out of the car and look, but, you can very easily walk in the front there and there are stairs. I'm just, like, I don't know if it's a fire department thing or if it would be a building inspector issue, but I would think that there should be some sort of barrier to stop anyone
Should
from
be
going
boarded.
in that. And it should be assessed to the ratepayer, anything that has to be done to
Or take it
mitigate any risk.
yeah,
Um,
should be taken down.
But I think the building inspector should weigh in, or the fire person, I don't know who does it, but to say, to make a recommendation to council as to what should be done with that property. Cause it's not safe, and that if we know it's not safe, then we have a responsibility.
I agree.
Yeah, you move.
Needs to be boarded up.
So do you need a
Needs to be
motion
taken
for
out.
that? To direct staff?
I'm assuming the problem also is that it's also within the property standards issue and during the bylaw. The one thing we could do is have the fire inspectors from the county invite them to do an inspection on the building.
Is there a cost to us, or no, that's
No,
part of the
it's part
county
of the-
services? Okay, I would be agreeable to that.
They won't like it.
I haven't had any complaints, but it's just, to me, it looks like a risk.
Okay, is there anything else for other business? Just one from myself. I attended the OSUM conference that was up in Pembroke last week on behalf of County Council technically, so don't worry, it's not coming here for an invoice. It was that was actually my first time attending the OSUM conference. I think Marianne, you've attended OSUM.
No, I've never made
Okay.
a know someone.
What's the acronym stand?
So OSUM is the Ontario
Ontario
Small
Small-
Urban
oh, right.
Municipalities. It was very good. I wish I would have attended them sooner. That's one that I think I'll go to probably every year in comparison to some other conferences. It's a small group. There was a little over 200 delegates in comparison to say an AMO conference or the Good Roads conference where there's 1,000 plus. So everybody was in the same sessions. They didn't do breakouts or anything. It was very good. And the nice part was it relates to the small rural municipalities. So I think it's one of those conferences that relates to Adelaide Metcalfe very well. It had kind of that same feel as the teeny tiny summit that Councillor Clark attended. I'm not sure, they haven't stated where it's going to be next year, but if any council members are interested in attending, I would
Recommend it.
very much so recommend
So was it in Ben Miller or Godrich or something last year? I remember hearing something on
It
the
was
TV.
close
much
by.
closer.
Yeah,
And I had spoken to somebody that went and said it was very good.
yeah.
So that would be something to keep on the radar.
I've also heard really good things about it. I just was not gonna go to Pembroke last week.
Yeah.
It's a long drive, I'll tell you.
And it's a little wet out there.
Yes, they were considering canceling it because there's so much water in the area.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy how high the river is. So.
Wow.
Also, the other thing that I remembered when we were talking about the fire inspection. So, County Council, we had a special council meeting, which is the first special council meeting since I've been on County Council. We were looking at the fire inspection services that's being provided. I think it was the previous meeting here where we had the motion to have that transferred to the county as administration work. So it's a service that's been provided to the lower tier municipalities as a transfer to the county. Most recently, and I think it was within the last year, the county realized that transfer was not done technically, properly, because the motions that were done, 20 plus years ago, it didn't specifically say it was a transfer. Some of them said it was a delegation. Some of them just said, hey, the County of Middlesex is going to take on fire inspection services. So we're slowly having all the lower tier municipalities make that resolution to have it transferred to the county. The issue that we're coming into right now is technically Middlesex County does not have the authority to provide those services because the county does not actually have it transferred, and we just realized that recently, because it under the municipal act, it needs to be transferred, and therefore what I'm trying to say is technically we need to have that transfer done ASAP as a triple majority, so that means it's majority of municipalities, majority of the population, and the majority, and then also at the county council. So the majority of the lower tiers have to make that resolution, and that county council we need to make that resolution as a weighted vote. So a weighted vote at county council, the way that works is for every 1,000 population in that municipality, you have 1 vote. So I have the least amount of votes at county council with, I believe it's 2 or 3, whereas in Stratford-Caradoc, I think they have 30 something. So right now we're waiting on a few of the municipalities, and we've given the lower tier municipalities until May 15th to provide us with that resolution. If we don't get the triple majority by the 15th, then that service will not be provided to the lower tiers anymore. So hopefully the outstanding municipalities that haven't made that resolution will pass that. But if not, that's something that we're going to be having to deal with here if it doesn't get the transfer to the county with the triple majority.
How many residents in Middlesex County? Do you know the answer to that? No?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm just trying to think if one of our neighbors
It used to be
would tip the scale
63.
wrong.
Around 63,000.
I'm thinking one of the heart rate, that could be problematic.
So there's only North Middlesex, and so North Middlesex, Middlesex Center, and Stratford-Caradoc are the one, and Newberry are outstanding for resolutions. So realistically, for getting the triple majority, we either need Stratford-Caradoc or Middlesex Center to pass that.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully, the recommendation tonight at Stratford-Caradoc Council was not to put that transfer forward. So we're waiting on Middlesex Center to find out what they will be doing.
Okay.
So that's
Because if it doesn't pass, then we're on our own,
yes,
correct? Okay,
Yep.
and then that would fall under our fire chief?
technically yes.
Okay.
If
So-
I may add, that's part of the reason why the E&R bylaw, the establishing and regulating bylaw, hasn't been returned to council for approval. It's pending what happens with this fire services, because then it would have to come back in and be part of the
Change.
services that's part of our fire service.
Okay.
Sorry for being scatterbrained. There's just a lot of information, and some of it's closed session, so I had to make sure I wasn't saying something I wasn't supposed to say. So, all right. If there's nothing else for other business, we have our closed session, and it's resolved that council and the CEO, treasurer, and the clerk move to closed session pursuant to section 239 2B, C, and D at 8:54. So, Councillor Clark
Sorry.
and Councillor Brody. And before we do so, since I wasn't in attendance at the beginning of the meeting during conflict of interest, I do have a conflict with item D1 of the closed session, and that was already declared on January 21st of this year.
You sure it's not C2?
I was looking at this one.
Oh, sorry, is there a new one? Sorry.
Which one?
On the iPad, it says
Yeah.
C2. That's all.
Okay, C, yeah, there we go. We'll go with C2 or D1 of the closed session or agenda. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Alright, so we just resumed from our closed session at 10:18. We just had one item for the Verizon report. It's Jennifer.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. So it'll be resolved that the council direct staff to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Okay, mover and seconder, Mayor Hendricks and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, if there's nothing else, we just have our bylaws. This is the bylaws.
This is the pay it forward agreement. They want us to sign an agreement, so if we could pass a motion for the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement, and then we'll bring the bylaw back at the next meeting.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. And our bylaws resolves that all three readings be given to bylaw number 36 of 2019, confirm council proceedings, and that the bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk in the corporate seal be attached. Deputy Mayor Hendricks and Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And a motion to adjourn at 10:20. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed and carried.